Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of On the Mark. My name is Mark Brantley, Premier of the Island of Nevis, leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, and host of On the Mark. And I'm here this evening for yet another 2 hours of commercial-free talk radio. If you're just tuned in, you're listening to the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, the only powerhouse, 860 AM VON Radio, the voice of Nevis, that has been with us and a household voice and a partner for the last 30-plus years. I want to thank VON Radio for giving me this incredible opportunity. I've been here with you now for well over 20 years in broadcast. I was on the heavyweights, now I am on the mark, and they have always been with me and I with them, and I thank them for the opportunity. I thank my brother Weber Herbert for the way he has managed this ship that is VON Radio and made it an institution here on the island of Nevis, the wider federation, and indeed the Eastern Caribbean. Many people turn to VON to get their news, to get their opinions, and I know many people turn to On the Mark on a Wednesday night. And I thank each and every one of you who's tuned in, whether it's via Facebook, whether it's via YouTube, or the old-fashioned way, 860 AM on your radio dial. I thank you very much for tuning in and for being a part of this show. Now, let me say at the outset that this show is a call-in program. That's where the show gets interesting. Some other shows, somebody engages in a monologue and they just talk and then they hang up and that's it. And that is nothing wrong with that. That is a way to get across information. But I like the shows that involve the audience because that allows us to exchange. It allows us to have a conversation, to engage with each other and to determine where we are, points of agreement, points of disagreement, but where we are. That's what's important. And in a democracy, I think that dialogue, that engagement is critically important. So we are still a unique show in the Federation. We're the only one of the kind where we have 2 hours of primetime talk radio without commercial interruption. And we're only able to do that through the generosity of the law firm of Daniel Brantley. They've paid for this show for 20 years. I say kudos to them. It has been almost 20 years, let me say, I'm sorry. But kudos to them because they paid the bill to have us on the air. And I'm grateful to them. It is a significant, significant contribution when you look at the money spent over that space of time of nearly 2 decades to ensure that this show is on the air, that callers who call in have the time to develop their points. I know many people take it for granted. Nobody bothers to think, well, how is this paid for? Well, they're the ones paying for it. They're the ones who make it possible. And I say thank you to them for constantly being there and for doing this show all of these years. This show started when I was in opposition. In fact, it started before I got into politics. I believe it was 2004 or thereabouts. And I did not get into politics formally until 2006. Ran my first election in 2007. And thereafter, we have been off to the races. And so here we are. Good night to everyone. Good evening to everyone. I'm sorry. Somebody said I should say good night only when I'm leaving. So good evening to everyone. Those here in Nevis, those in St. Kitts, those across the Caribbean, places like St. Martin and Anguilla, those in the British Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, where we have large pockets of people from St. Kitts and Nevis. Good evening, of course, to those in the United States and Canada, those in the United Kingdom, wherever you are this evening. If you're studying in Barbados, if you're in Jamaica, if you're in Trinidad, if you're in the Bahamas, wherever you happen to be and you're tuned in, good evening to you. I know we have listenership in Belize as well. Good evening to you and welcome to this show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is the eve of the St. Kitts Music Festival, and it promises this year to be one of the biggest music festivals ever. I want to tip my hat, even though the festival has not yet started. It starts tomorrow night, but I want to tip my hat to the organizers. It has really been a very, very good run. 20-plus years of music festival, and it gets better and better each year. The product is high quality. It's a world-class product, and certainly I am very, very pleased that this is happening in the Federation. I want to say to the people of Nevis, who I know will be going over in their thousands to support the Music Fest, that please be safe. I want to say to revelers and party goers and those who may be out having fun, please be safe on the road. Do not drink and drive. Do not smoke and drive. Please be safe on the roads. That is critically important as we move forward. We want no deaths, no accidents, no fatalities. Let us be on our best behavior and let us party responsibly. So for those going back and forth, I wish you safe passage, journey's mercies. And for those on the roads, I also wish you journey's mercies. Let us put on a great show for the world. Let us and let our vendors and our food sellers and our restaurants and our car rentals our hotels, our guest houses. Let everybody make a dollar. This is what this is about, the spin-off in the local economy. And so I certainly welcome this. I've always been an avid supporter of the St. Kitts Music Festival. Matter of fact, I think I've gone to every single one that has been kept from the early days up at Fort Thomas Hotel and then thereafter. I also, while I'm at it, want to encourage everyone to, once they're rested from the St. Kitts Music Festival, to get on their shoes and head to Nevis for the Nevis Mango Festival. The St. Kitts Music Festival ends on Saturday night. Then I know all roads lead to White Sands at Carambola on Sunday. And then the following week, starting on Thursday, we kick off the Nevis Mango Festival. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the grand finale on Sunday. Sunday, we have the grand finale at the MGR Park. There will be a VIP this year again. That VIP is being curated by Carambola. So they're bringing the excellence to Nevis. And we have, I'm told, a chef's table, which we have with a celebrity chef. That, I'm told, is sold out. That's going to be at Golden Rock. We have an engagement where people can go and cook along with a chef. I'm not sure what the name is right now. That's eluding me. But that too is sold out. We're having activities at your Brenta. We're having activities at Golden Rock. We're having activities around the island at various restaurants in the nooks and crannies in the villages in Nevis, the mom and pop shops. We are spreading the Mango Festival across Nevis, just indeed as we are spreading Culturama across Nevis. And so I want to thank all those who have been involved thus far. I think that the Music Fest, followed by the Mango Fest, followed by Culturama, it's going to be a packed summer of activity and action here. And I'm hopeful that everyone comes out and supports all of these activities and have a good time. The Mango Festival has now achieved quite an iconic status last year. After some hiccups the year before, we really came great, and this year, based on what I'm seeing, it's going to be even better. And so we invite you to come out, and once you've enjoyed the Music Fest, we allow you to rest for 2 or 3 days, and then you head to Nevis. That is the approach. And so for those who are visiting, don't go back just yet. Stick around, because the sweet mango is on display, and everything is going to be mango themed. It's a food festival of a special kind, a sweet kind, some will say, and those who have been participating indicate that it is in fact great fun. And so we certainly look forward to that. Let me, ladies and gentlemen, also extend to the family, Sherry Gager and her family, my deepest condolences on the loss of her sister. I was able to attend the funeral service that was held, her sister Donna, and I really just want to extend my condolences publicly. I've done so privately, of course, but to say publicly to her, to AJ, to the entire family, to Jackie and you know, everybody, that I extend my condolences to them. You know, it's always a sad situation when we lose someone, and especially someone so young. And so I certainly join with them in their mourning, and also say to them that our prayers will uplift them in this difficult time for them. So Sherry, my dear friend, if you're listening, I extend my condolences to you publicly on the loss of your sister, and indeed to the entire family. Let me also send a shout out to anyone who might be ailing at this point, who might be hospitalized, who is having some difficulty, who may be going through some bad patch. I want to extend my thoughts to them. Sometimes we forget that people are out there and people are struggling, and we get so caught up in our own little worlds with our own struggles that we don't remember other people. And so I want to extend my thoughts, my prayers for those who are sick, those who may be hospitalized, wherever you are and you're going through some difficulty. My thoughts and prayers are with you. And of course, for those who are celebrating, I know there are many who are graduating. Schools are having their graduations. It is that season. Many are graduating from university. I just want to extend warm congratulations to you. Those who are celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, congratulations to you as well. As usual for this show, we tend to spend a few minutes at the top of the show talking about various things, and then we go into some calls, and so I'm hopeful that we'll get some calls. And I want to start tonight, ladies and gentlemen, by addressing something that really keeps popping up. And it's a political matter, and this show is a political show, but it keeps popping up, and I think that I have not addressed it, or perhaps not addressed it often enough, because somehow, when my mother and father decided to call me Mark, it seems to me that that name is too easy a name to pronounce. And I've often contemplated changing my name. When we were in school, there used to be one of the African leaders in South Africa, not in South Africa, in Nigeria, forgive me, and his name was Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. And I often wonder, what would happen if I change my name to Abubakar Tafawa Balewa? People can't pronounce it so much. Maybe that would lead to people talking about this Mark a little less. Because I sometimes genuinely don't get it. I don't get it. So today someone said to me that there was a particular program on one of the radio stations in the Federation, and that I ought to take a listen. And so I don't usually, but I decided, okay, let me take a listen. And the program was talking about opposition and who's doing what and who should do what. You know, the people who are not politicians and who have never been politicians always have the most advice for politicians. It's like a man who's never played cricket but always has the most advice for cricketers, or a man who has never played basketball or football but knows everything, a man who's never run a row of blocks but knows everything about masonry. That's the St. Nevis that we have. You have a lot of pundits out there, a lot of people who claim to have all the expertise in the world, but we will never know, because the courage that it takes to lace up your boots and go onto the field of play, that courage is absent. So you can talk all you want, you can stay in the pavilion, and you can talk about who's batting well and who's bowling well and who played the wrong shot, but to put on your gear and go out and stand in the middle and bat, you will never ever do that. And so I tend to take what a lot of people, these so-called experts, say with a grain of salt. Because if you do not have the courage of your convictions to go and say, well, all right, everything in the country is going wrong, let me go out and offer myself to the people to make things right. No, they don't do that. But they sit down, usually behind a microphone, as I'm doing now, and they have all the answers. They can advise you how to win. They can advise you what to do. They know all the best policies. They know economics, not 101 or 202. They know economics 10.0. They are the brightest and most capable. But they will never, ever have the courage to enter the arena. And so you must sometimes wonder, how is it you're so full of advice? You know the best things to do. You know the best policies for the country. But you can't step into the arena, present yourself to the people and persuade the people that those policies will work and therefore they ought to give you a chance to serve. No, they're hanging on to somebody else's coattail and hoping that as that person goes, so they will go. So I make that broad statement. But I listen to this particular program, and of course they are talking and saying all that they have to say. And it seems to me that in some quarters, there's a major talking point about Mark Brantley being leader of the opposition in the National Parliament. And what I'm doing and what I'm not doing and what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do. Now, under the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Prime Minister is the person who, in the opinion of the Governor General, commands the support of the majority of elected members of the Parliament. In this case, that person is the Honorable Prime Minister Drew, because he commands the support of 5 of his colleagues, plus I believe he supports himself. The Parliament is 11, so that means he has a majority of 6. In the opposition, you have 5 seats, 3 from Nevis to the CCM, 1 to the People's Action Movement, 1 to the People's Labour Party. The Constitution says that the leader of the opposition will be the person who commands the support of the majority of elected members who do not support the government. Well, in that context, the CCM has 3 seats and I have the support of 3 elected members. The Honorable Eric Evelyn, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, and I support myself. There are 2 other members in the opposition, the Honorable Timothy Harris the Honorable Sean Richards. No, I have spent time in opposition. In fact, I became leader of the opposition, my first at bat in terms of politics, in 2007. And I held that position until I believe it was 2015 when the government changed and a unity government took office. I have always seen my role in the parliament, whether on government side or on opposition side, to advance the ideas that I'm persuaded can work, to provide alternative viewpoints, support where necessary, a different view or an added view where necessary. And I have decided that my role is really not to get into warfare with the government, but rather to remember that I serve the people of the country, and so it is my duty to offer alternatives, to offer an alternative viewpoint, to offer critique where critique is necessary, but also to offer commendations if they're necessary and if I feel so moved. A good example we have offered commendations to the government is on the geothermal project. I was in a unity government where I sat as foreign minister for 7 years and I could not get the support necessary to move geothermal forward. Dr. Terence Drew has come to government as prime minister. No agreement with me, no Charleston Accord with CCM. In fact, I did not even know who Dr. Drew was in the sense of having had any detailed conversation with him. I recall I met him once, shook his hand at a funeral here in Nevis. Beyond that, I have seen him sitting in the gallery in the parliament on a few occasions. I had no relationship with Dr. Drew. But Dr. Drew allowed me and extended to me as the Premier of Nevis the courtesy of meeting with him within the first 3 days or so of his new administration. And he said to me and I said to him, let us work together on these major national issues like geothermal. And so thus far, he has delivered. And I say it publicly with no water in my mouth. Kudos to him, because he sees the bigger picture when others, even others that I sat with in government, could not see it. I have said on the issue of crime that I am not going to go out there like some and try to politicize crime, because I have been there. I have done that. And I have come to the realization, with the benefit of age and hopefully wisdom, that it adds nothing in terms of us finding a solution. And so I have said to the Prime Minister, as leader of the opposition, I will seek to work with you on the issue of national security, because national security is a fundamentally important matter for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We can have no economic growth. We can have no peace in the country. We can have no happiness if people are afraid to go out at nights to walk in their communities because the criminals have taken over. And that is why you have not heard me. Oh, another murder. Oh, the government need to blame, they need to resign. You have not heard that from me. Now, there are some out there who seem to be of the view that because I'm in a position as leader of the opposition in the national parliament, it is my job to attack everything and anything that the government does. It is my job, when the information isn't even clear, to go on the rampage against the government, because they say that that is the role of opposition. You see it at play in Nevis. The NRP in Nevis is in opposition to the CCM. And if, God forbid, it rains too much tomorrow or the sun is too hot tomorrow, they will find a way to blame the government. They blame the government about all manner of foolishness. You take a photo, they cuss you. They cuss you, and recently we have realized that when they're tired cuss CCM, they start to cuss their own. And that, it seems in some quarters, is what people say is good opposition. Not ideas, not constructive criticism, not alternative policies, not ways that we can make something better. For example, the island says we want to do poultry. Well, The opposition can well say, this is what we suggest. We go on record to say we recommend this or we recommend that. No. Cost, 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 cost. And there are some out there, so-called pundits, who say that that is the appropriate and correct role for the opposition. Because I am not doing that, because I am instead seeking in a measured way to get my point across, the argument is that I am abdicating my role as opposition leader because I'm not cussing Labour. I'm not cussing Jew. I'm not saying everything that is going on is wrong and is bad and is this and is that. I am actually willing to say that Jew has been helpful on geothermal. I shouldn't say that. I am willing to say that a music festival is a great idea and I hope it succeeds this year. He shouldn't say that. Because the idea, it seems, about opposition is you must oppose everything. Everything in the country is bad. In fact, I found out, just to use by way of example, that an avid, hardcore supporter of NRP, someone who calls into this show, somebody you don't need to light no candle to look for him, that recently he apparently had a word of praise for the Mango Festival in Nevis and Mr. Fayon Jones, who is the acting CEO at the NTA, for the job that is being done. That's all it took for the NRP to turn their guns on their own supporter, because nothing good is happening in Nevis. And if anybody dares to say that something good is happening, no matter how small, the response is to attack. Because everybody must say things are bad, things are hard, there are no jobs, people in Nevis are hungry. That is the narrative. And I'm asking the question, and perhaps when the lines are open you can answer me. How can we move forward if that is the approach? How can we move forward if the opposition in the country is not permitted to offer any ideas to make the country better? Is not permitted to say to the government of the day that on certain fundamental national issues we must sing from the same hymn sheet. On a matter like crime, let us join hands. Let us say to our supporters that on these types of issues there ought to be no difference of opinion, because the country is at stake. On something transformative like geothermal energy, where every man, woman and child in Nevis and in St. Kitts will benefit, let us join hands and bring this to market and to fruition for the benefit of our people. Now, what is wrong with that, listeners? You know, since I have been leader of the opposition, and I want to commend certainly the members of CCM in the opposition. Let me talk for my party. Because time and time again we have made interventions in the National Parliament over the past 2.5 years that has led to the government amending the legislation that they are proposing. Well, how can that happen unless as an opposition we are offering constructive criticism? We are offering solutions to make things better. And if that is not the role of a responsible opposition, then I want you to tell me what is. Is it just to cuss? That's my job. Is it just to cuss? And because I'm not cussing enough, nobody's looking at the amount of recommendations that have been taken on board. The number of recommendations, forgive me, that have been taken on board. Nobody's looking at the changes to legislation that our interventions, our advocacy in the Parliament have caused. Nobody's looking at what it is the results are for the people of the country. No, you must cuss the government. You wake up in the morning, cuss the government. You're having lunch, cuss the government. You're having dinner, cuss the government. Tomorrow, you do it all over again. How are we going to move forward? How? There will be a time during an election campaign when you put the opposing views and the people are allowed to vote and determine what they want. But once you're past the election, is it that we are saying that there's no room in the country for opposition and government to say on significant issues? COVID-19 pandemic. I reached out during the COVID-19 pandemic to the NRP, invited them to a meeting, sought their support on the issues. They wrote back and said they will not cooperate with the government. Well, that was their position. And again, it appears that there are some who feel that that is the role of opposition. Cuss every day, block everything, argue about everything. We, for example, proposed an airport project. Before we even had a chance to say what the airport project is going to look like, the NRP led a massive 7-man march over at the Van Samri. 7 of them out there stand up in the hot sun. I felt sorry for them. What are they protesting? Not even them know. Because we had only announced that we wanted to do this project, they're going to protest. Now, which division, at home or abroad, would say that the island of Nevis doesn't need an airport expansion? Which one? But here you have, again, simply because the objective is to oppose for oppose's sake, gone over to march in the hot sun, 7 strong. What are they opposing? What are they protesting? Nobody knows. Not even they know. And that is what I feel is so unfortunate about a country that boasts a literacy rate of almost 100%. It seems to me that we can read, we can write, but so many of us don't seem to be able to understand that we are so small in numbers, that there is a need for us to pool our ideas. If every time a government is elected, half of the country is in government, that is, support the government, and half is out there tugging against the government, then we wonder why our development has not blossomed in the way that it can. Because if I have a good idea, I can't say to the Prime Minister, Prime Minister, here's my idea. I believe that this idea will work, you know. Because that's not done. Let the country mash up. I have said on this show numerous times. I'm going to say it again tonight because it's worth repeating. That there was a time that I had a gentleman call me. And in those days I was in opposition and right here on Von Radio. Because I've never opposed for the sake of opposing. If I've ever come and said that I did not agree with something, I offered my reasons and I offered a solution. That has been my hallmark in politics. And the gentleman said to me, Mark, you're talking too much. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're giving the government of the day, NRP was in government in Nevis, you're giving them solutions and ideas. Don't do it. And I said to the gentleman, I said, sir, let me ask you something. In Charleston, we have one pier. If you saw a cruise liner coming into that pier, and it was going too fast, and it would, at its current speed, slam into the pier and destroy it, would you not sound the alarm? And this man, older than me, wiser than me, his response alarmed me as a young politician. He said, let it mash up. And when you get in, you fix it back. That was his response. So if you see the pier as the country, you see something is happening that will damage the country. He is basically saying, let this something happen. Mash up the country. Use the mashing up of the country as the reason to say to people, put you into government, and then you try to fix it back. When you could have avoided the mashing up in the first place, because when the pier in town mash up, where the ferry is going to dock, Look how many people out of business. How are we going to get back and forth to St. Kitts and Nevis to see family and friends? But the man said, let it pay mash up, fix it back when you get in. And unfortunately, that is the mentality of many people in context of opposition. That's what they see. They want me to be at war. They want me to wage war on labor. And so, the other day I was talking to someone. And I said to them, because they come with the same story. And you know what's interesting? It's mostly St. Kitts people carrying on about it. Oh, he's not doing enough, he's not doing enough. And I said, you know what I find is interesting? There seems to be in some quarters the view that the role of Nivision politicians is to elevate the politicians in St. Kitts. There seems to be some of that view. If you cast your mind back to 1980, I think it was, Labour won 4 seats in St. Kitts. Simmons won 3 seats, Pam. Sim Daniel won 2. The first time I ever heard the word coalition is my mother, who was not a political person. When she heard the result, she said, oh, they're going to form a coalition. Sim Daniel and the NRP took their 2 seats. They joined with Pam, Dr. Simmons and Pam with their 3. And 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. 5 is more than Limo's 4. And just like that, Labour was out. And an NRP PAM coalition was in. Dr. Simmons became the leader of the country and then is now enshrined in our history books as the father of the nation and our first prime minister. Later, of course, seats were increased and fortunes ebbed and flowed. But Dr. Simmons was made prime minister by the NRP in Nevis. They're the ones who provided the support. Fast forward, 1993, the 2 parties in St. Kitts split 4-4, 4 to PAM, 4 to Labour. CCM in Nevis now get 2, NRP get 1. Van Samry of CCM says he's staying neutral. He not join nobody. Joseph Parry joined with PAM. Gave PAM a minority government, and Dr. Simmons continued as prime minister. Couldn't do it without Nevis. That lasted until 1995. Then Dr. Douglas came into office. And he won all 8 seats, he won 7. He didn't need anybody from Nevis. Had enough seats. But in 2010, in that election, he only won 6 of the 8 seats in St. Kitts. And Dr. Douglas knew that Sam Conda and Timothy Harris, who were among the 6, were already off the reservation or trying to move off the reservation. He understood that there were currents against him within his ranks. And so he did something interesting. He reached out and he snatched Patrice Nisbet of the NRP, who became Attorney General and later Minister of Foreign Affairs. Dr. Douglas recognized he needed numbers because he understood that he had some in his camp who were not on board. And so Patrice gave him a little bit of breathing room. And so NRP, which in 1980 was with PAM all the way through to 1993 election, and when there was a tied 4-4, NRP went again with PAM. Suddenly in 2010, NRP joined with Labour. NRP, I will remind the public, was formed to fight Labour. That's what it was formed to do. And the letters and the exchanges between Robert Bradshaw, leader of Labour, and Dr. Simeon Daniel, leader of NRP, both now national heroes of blessed memory. Those letters are legendary. The way that these 2 men went after each other. NRP was formed to fight Labour. But by 2010, NRP now was with Labour. And I remember well that the fellas in Nevis, you never hear them use them words before. Comrade. Comrade, they started to call themselves Comrade. NRP now became Comrade. I say, all right. Dr. Douglas himself came up here. Never happened before. Went on the political platform in Nevis for the NRP. We still beat them. Because the NRP has never since the time of Sir Simeon's departure from politics, held any appeal to the people of Nevis. All right. We move forward now to 2015. 2015, a Team Unity government came in. PLP had 1 seat. PAM had 4 seats. CCM had 2 seats. If you added the PLP and the PAM seats together, they could not form a government. It was therefore the CCM 2 seats that came in and gave them the necessary majority. By way of agreement, that same Charleston Accord, which was later vilified, Timothy Harris with 1 seat became Prime Minister because that is what was agreed. And so Team Unity got into office, but again, the Nevis politicians and the Nevis seats were used to elevate somebody and sink it. 2020 rolled around. Timothy Harris and the PLP got 2 seats. PAM came back with the same 4 seats. And CCM for the first time won all 3 seats in Nevis. Now, you could have formed a government in Sinkits now with PAM's 4 and PLP's 2 without the CCM. I was now the leader of CCM. 2015, I was not the leader of CCM. But I had already seen by 2020 some tendencies that I did not like. I had seen some dictatorial approaches by Timothy Harris that I was not going to have any part of. I had seen a peace program, well designed, well intentioned, corrupted for political reasons. I had seen the CBI program and the efforts in relation to that I did not agree with, and developers being given a wink and a nod by those who should know better. And by 2020, I had my own views that I shared with my party, and we decided that we wanted to take a different approach. We went to the polls, and I want to remind everybody of the 2020 campaign. CCM always campaigned as CCM. A point I will get back to. Because CCM has never pretended to be anything but CCM. We are blue, and we are proud to be blue. We are the longest serving party on the island of Nevis, and the party that has demonstrated the most development and the most success for the people of Nevis. And that is why election after election the people have come and have voted for the CCM time and time and time again. In fact, I will remind the public that from 1992 until now, the CCM has only lost 1 election, which was in 2006. Think about that. 1992 until now. That is 33 years by my tally. The CCM has only lost 1 election in 2006. 2011 doesn't count because that's when the fox was in the box. And we went to court and we dealt with that. So, the CCM has been the preferred choice for the people of Nevis. Because the people of Nevis know the party that has brought them progress. The party that has brought prosperity to the island. The party that has elevated the island of Nevis over the last 3 decades. And so, in 2020, the CCM campaigned as CCM. We said once we were able to win seats in Nevis, we would then offer those seats to form a government. Now, I have said this publicly, but this is where now I think those out there who are students of politics and students of our political history need to perhaps pay attention. Because of what we had seen in terms of Dr. Harris and where he was headed, in a direction where he was not prepared to honor any of the commitments of the Charleston Accord, save and except him being Prime Minister. Not prepared to abide by the 2 terms that we had agreed, not prepared to give Nevis a fair share, not prepared to support geothermal, all of these things set out in the Charleston Accord. We decided in CCM we don't want to go any further with Timothy Harris. And we, the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, the Honorable Eric Evelyn, and I, journeyed to St. Kitts and met with the People's Action Movement. When we met with the People's Action Movement in St. Kitts, we met at a place over called Half Moon. And at that meeting, we offered the Prime Ministership of the country to the Honorable Sean Richards. And we said to the Honorable Sean Richards, we are prepared to support you. You have 4 seats, we have 3 as Prime Minister. Dr. Harris is free to be a part of the government, but we do not wish for Dr. Harris to continue in his role as Prime Minister, not based on what he had shown us. In that meeting were the 3 elected from Nevis: Sean Richards, Eugene Hamilton, Lindsey Grant, Jonell Powell. In fact, I believe the place we met, Jonell said it was a family member or friend house at Half Moon. Nice place over there. I think it's a TDC development called Sunrise or something like that. We met. I believe that was this Saturday. And we offered that position. The People's Action Movement said no. They declined. They said that they're sticking with Timothy as the Prime Minister. I then said to them, well, if that is the case, then let us agree that we will support Tim as Prime Minister, but let us have a say then in the allocation of ministries, because that was a major complaint as well, that Timothy with 1 seat had the Prime Ministership, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Sustainable Development, National Security, and all the levers of government were in his hands. That was the conversation that occurred. They said they would think about it. We came back to Nevis. On Sunday morning, and I hope my recollection is correct, I remember being upstairs my home in Montpelier, having something to drink, a coffee, I think. And my wife ran upstairs and said, do you know that Timothy Harris is being sworn in? I said, sworn in? I said, yes. And when I turned on, there was Timothy Harris at government headquarters being sworn in as Prime Minister. Now it is customary that before anybody is sworn in as Prime Minister, that the Governor General has a sworn duty to call the elected members to ask them if they support the particular individual. Because remember, under the Constitution, the Governor General can only appoint as Prime Minister the person who is, in his opinion, commands the majority of support among the elected members. So the only way the GG can ascertain that is to ask the elected members, who do you support? I recall in 2015 that call came. I believe Mr. Lawrence was then the Governor General. And I was called, Mr. Brantley, do you support Dr. Harris as Prime Minister? Yes, Governor General. I know everybody was called. In 2020, no such call was made. Dr. Harris was merely sworn in. In fact, my colleagues in Nevis were not aware of what was going on. And when I got over to St. Kitts, because we still went to St. Kitts that day, because remember, as I said, we should have a follow-up meeting. When we got to Sinkis that day, it was apparent that some of the elected members of PAM also did not know what was going on. So it begs the question, who were the majority that supported Timothy Harris? But I said, all right, what is done is done. We are here. Let us see whether or not we can still internally work through these difficulties. Them having been aired, people understanding what the dynamics were and what the difficulties were, can we still work through them? Since the people had given us a mandate, let us not let the people down. Let us see whether or not this can work. And so we went back into government in 2020. But unfortunately, the events of 2020 and that election, rather than causing Dr. Harris to say, you know what, let me take another look at my style and how I was managing things, he doubled down. He felt empowered, emboldened, because it appears to me that he felt that he had somehow won over the People's Action Movement, that they were now his acolytes. And so he adopted a particular position where it, instead of getting better, it got worse. Well, I knew that if the CCM walked away from the national government, it meant nothing, because the government would still stand. And so I said, you know what? And I said to my colleagues, let us put the politics to the side. Focus on the job that we have to do. I was in Foreign Affairs. The Honorable Alexis Jeffers was in Agriculture. The Honorable Eric Evelyn was in the Environment. And I believe, ladies and gentlemen, without fear of contradiction, that it was one of the best periods in the country for those three ministries. We are reaping benefits up to today from the work that the three of us did at that level. I recall that we used to go down, the three of us, for cabinet on a Monday. And we would go early and we would sit at one of the little coffee shops in Sinkits, have something to eat, have a coffee, chat, discuss how we would approach certain issues. We have a very close-knit, Eric, Alexis, and myself. And we were at a place in Frigate Bay. I believe it's called Coconut Grove. I'm giving the details because I believe that it's important that people hear the story, because I'm tired of the misinformation. We were at a place called Coconut Grove when my phone rang, and it was the Honorable Sean Richards. And Sean asked me, Mark, where are you? I said, I'm over in Frigate Bay. I need to see you right away. I said, well, I wonder what is that, because Sean is not known to be this agitated. I finished my coffee. We jumped into the vehicle, and he said to me that he was actually at the Pelican Mall by Lindsey Grant's office. Lindsey, of course, at the time being the Minister of Tourism. I drove. When I was walking up the steps to go up to the offices, a car blew its horn. And when I looked, the car was flashing its lights, a Jeep. And when I looked, it was Sean and Lindsey in the vehicle. I jumped in the back. Lindsey was in the driver's seat. Sean was in the passenger seat. That's my recollection. Sean turned around, because I'm sitting in the back. He used his hand and he did like this to his throat. That's like when you're cutting somebody's throat. And I said, well, what's going on? And Sean indicated he's done. Pam is pulling out of the government. So I said, well, what's going on? You would recall that just a year and a half before, I and CCM offered Sean the prime ministership, offered Pam the leadership of the country, and Pam said no. They will stick with Timothy. So here we were a year and a half later, and Sean is doing me that. Done. So I said, well, what's going on? And I don't know if you recall that there was a big hullabaloo about a hut that was built at Port Zante. And there were all kinds of efforts to destroy Sean Richards and his reputation, all kinds of nasty allegations that were made about Sean. And Sean intimated that he had discovered that the fodder, the ammunition for that, had come from nobody else but the same Timothy Harris. And he said with that evidence, he could no longer stomach the idea of being in a government propping up Timothy. That was the conversation. Now, prior to that conversation, Timothy had set his dogs on me. Every day, there was a woman, I can't remember her name, but a very large woman, who was on Facebook attacking me, on radio attacking me. She used to have some kind of program. Every day, there was a fellow from somewhere up in Bastille, somewhere, attacking me vociferously. They were not even trying, as some do now, to use some kind of fake profile. Full-on, head-on attacks. I recall going to Akila Byron, who was the representative for St. Christopher III, and saying to her, this individual who's attacking me claims to be your campaign manager. How could it be right that they're attacking me when I'm in government sitting next to you? She said she would look into the matter, but the attacks never ceased. I then realized that Akila, who I still believe is an honorable individual, that fellow was not taking orders from Akila. His orders were coming from higher up the chain. And then when this large lady continued to attack me, and I inquired who she was actually somebody assigned to the office of the Prime Minister. So I went to Timothy, and I said, but Timothy, I'm the leader of CCM. We are in a government together as unity. How is it you could have these people attacking me day after day, saying the most horrible things about me, wanting me to lose, campaigning against me, openly supporting NRP, when I'm in government sitting down with you? And you know what Timothy tell me? Mark, you can't tell people what to say. Them are big people, me can't tell them what to say. And I thought, okay. Because at this time, I am not without support. My people are wild. And in fact, if some of them are out there listening tonight, they will call in and say that it is true, because when they came to me wild to start attacking Timothy, I tell them, no. I cannot be sitting in a government with somebody and have my team attacking them. But all of that I endured. Nobody said anything. Nobody tried to stop it, because you see, I was the punching bag. For some reason, Timothy Harris had made up his mind that Mark Brantley wanted to be Prime Minister, and he had to be stopped because Mark Brantley was a threat to him. Mine. All the while I'm telling them, you know, all I want from you is what was promised to Nevis. And let me go ahead and try and develop my beautiful little island. That's all. But you see, people are how they think, they are who they are. And so he, being a schemer, thought that others were scheming. When I offered Sean the prime ministership, I did so on principle. Not on animus, on principle. I did not like the direction that we were headed in. And I believe I had good reason. Sean said no. Pam said no. And so, on this fateful day, outside the Pelican Mall, Sean gave me the signal, cut the throat, he done. And I will say it here tonight because it is true. Team Unity, in fact, lasted a few months longer because I said to Sean, Sean, no, we cannot just up and end the government without giving an opportunity for reconciliation and giving an opportunity for us to say to Timothy, Timothy, the road down which you're going, we have to stop it. And so I pulled back from the brink and tell Sean, let's approach this in a different way. Let us give dialogue a chance. And if, of course, dialogue will not work, then we have no choice. Many people out there now who are saying they're pundits and they're chatting all kind of things, they seem to forget that Sean and I wrote to Timothy Harris. We wrote expressing concerns and asking for dialogue to fix those concerns. Timothy at the time had his camp over there at Coy. That's where he and his cohorts, Wendy Phipps and them used to be. Juicy Byron, that's where they used to be. Because them turned their back on Pam and joined PLP. And we got back, me can't remember, must have been over nearly 15 pages in response. Cuss us out. Cuss us out. Say all kind of things to Sean and I. And I said to myself, and I remember saying to Sean, I said, you have 4 seats, I have 3. That's 7. 7 out of 11 is not just a majority, it's a super majority. Tim got 2 seats. But Tim and them sit down and send us a scathing attack on us. No effort to compromise, because you see, somebody had fooled Timothy that he was popular, that he had national appeal. And he didn't realize that his appeal really was limited to number 7. And so long as he controlled the country's purse and could give people things, people jump up and say, he's great. So he was bamboozling himself. And we who had made him prime minister, he had no respect for. And that is where things unraveled. Some people forget that we attempted dialogue. We were supposed to then engage in some meetings, and then we had the tragedy of Vance Amry dying. And I remember our Governor General Tapley Seaton of blessed memory. He reached out, said, oh, we can't have no discussion and because of Vance's death. I said, well, I don't know what Vance's death had to do with the discussions at hand. Nobody was disrespecting Mr. Amry, but this critical national matter had to be ventilated internally. Nobody had yet gone with nothing public, you know. Internally. And so efforts at dialogue and diplomacy failed. Pam then invited me to speak at their national convention. And my sentiments at that convention were not me just chatting. These were sentiments that were approved. And I spoke, and everybody remembers the speech that I made. And that was the first public, sort of bold public statement that all was not well within unity. We took advice from a QC in London, as they were then, now KC. And that advice was that the same way that we had given our support to make Timothy Prime Minister, that we ought to write to the GG and indicate that we were withdrawing that support. And in fact, were supporting Sean Richards, again, as Prime Minister. Not Mark Brantley, not Lindsey Grant, not Alexis Jeffers, not John L. Powell, not Eric Evelyn, but Sean Richards as Prime Minister. We wrote the letter to the GG. The GG wrote back, say he'd taken advice. And then the next thing we knew, we got notification that all 6 of us had been fired. I say 6 because by then Eugene Hamilton had jumped ship as well and was with Timothy. So we ended up in this country with a farcical situation where we had a government of 3. Timothy Harris as Prime Minister, clinging on by his fingernails. Mr. Eugene Hamilton, Mrs. Akila Nisbet, Byron Nisbet. And then they had Wendy and Juicy and them. And nobody voted for them there, so leave them out of the equation. A government of 3. And you had 8 elected members out in the yard. 2 for Labour and 6 of us fired. 3 from Nevis, 3 from St. Kitts. We then put in a motion of no confidence, and they tried to derail the hearing of that motion in the Parliament. I am aware of the pressures that were being exerted. But the Speaker, the Honourable Michael Perkins, did his duty, and he listed the motion for debate. And once that happened, Dr. Harris had the option. He could resign as Prime Minister and allow the country to appoint a new Prime Minister, in which case we had already indicated to the GG that we would support Sean. Or he could dissolve the Parliament and say, let everybody go back to the polls. And he decided, being Timothy Harris, and being confused that he was popular, he decided that he gonna call a fresh election, dissolve the Parliament, and everybody go back to the polls. And so 18 months later, we were back at elections. The People's Action Movement agreed with the CCM that we would coalesce, and if we were able to win enough seats, that we would form the government again with Sean Richards as Prime Minister. I think this is important because some of the nonsense that I'm hearing, people seem to want to be very convenient in terms of their memories. That was the deal. CCM as usual campaign as CCM, because we don't want nobody on our platform. When we campaigning, the big blue machine rolls out. We envision we campaign as CCM. PAM campaigned, ran 8 seats, PLP ran 8 seats, Labour ran 8 seats. When the dust cleared and the votes were counted, PAM won 1 seat, PLP won 1 seat, Labour won 6 seats, that's the 8 in St. Kitts. CCM again won all 3 seats on Nevis. So just what we had in 2020, the people said, CCM, you are again our preferred choice. They gave us the 3 seats. Now I'm hearing the argument that we should have taken our 3 seats now from Nevis and gone over to St. Kitts and appointed Sean as leader of the opposition, because somehow, the perception again, largely from St. Kitts, is that that was the right and honorable and important thing for us to do. We did not do that. We discussed it internally, and the team decided that they wanted to support me as the leader of CCM to be the leader of the opposition. But I sat with Sean and I explained to Sean what the thinking was. I explained to him what the party had decided. I did not spring it on him. I respect Sean. I respected him then. I respect him now. I wouldn't say that he and I are close friends, but we have had a friendly relationship, and one, I think, based on mutual respect. I have not seen any reason to disrespect Sean in any way, shape, or form. And so I spoke to him before the decision was made public. And that was the position. The party that won the majority of seats in the opposition, being the CCM, was elevated to the leader of the opposition. So I'm hearing all this kerfuffle now. And one of the talking points that really upsets me is among some quarters where people are saying that I betrayed Sean by taking the lead of the opposition. Well, I have 3 seats and Sean has 1. How is it I betrayed Sean by taking the lead of the opposition? How? And how it is that I am betraying Sean in 2022 when in 2020 I offered Sean Prime Minister? It's almost as if there's some who are of the view that Sean should not or could not lead the country as Prime Minister but Sean could lead the opposition. Almost as if they're saying that the role for the leader of PAM, as he then was not as Prime Minister, but as leader of the opposition. That I find is an odd conclusion that some people seem to be arriving at. And when this notion, because I take my integrity very seriously, so when this notion that I have done something to PAM, I have betrayed PAM, well, where has that come from? Does the rank and file of PAM know that PAM had the Prime Ministership in its hands in 2020 and said no? Because you see, I'm at a stage now and at an age now where the only person out there that I fear is God. I'm not begging anybody for anything. I am trying now to ensure that all that I do is done in truth, is done justly, is done in a way that is to the benefit of the people of my country and the people of this lovely island called Nevis, because it's Nevisians who vote for me. You think I could vex with Drew and Drew stand up and say he's from the Republic, what he said, the Republic of St. Peter's? I can't vex with him. Is St. Peter's people send him, put him where he is? But it looks like some vex with me because I say I am from Nevis. I am from St. John's and St. Paul's. I am from number 9. So some people are allowed to root for their own, but we somehow in Nevis, our job is to play a support cast. Now I had an exchange with somebody on social media recently. I'm taking a while, you know, callers, please don't be upset with me, but I think these things need to be said. I had an exchange on social media recently, and this person was chastising me, say I'm not doing enough to oppose Drew and oppose Labour. And I said, you know what I find interesting about these commentators? They want me, Mark Anthony Graham Brantley, born on Henley Park, grew up in Brownhill, to fight to get Drew out of office. They want me to lead the charge. But none of those who are asking me to lead the charge against Drew are willing to then say you should lead the country if Drew is no longer there. No. What they're really saying, Mark, you and your boys from Nevis, I want you all to fight and get Labour out so one of us could then become Prime Minister. That we can get back into office. Whether you be PLP, PAM or who. There's a level of disrespect that I'm hearing that's in this debate. And people may be upset with me after tonight. That's okay. A level of disrespect as if the people of Nevis are only a tool to be used to get others to the promised land. And I'm saying that I have been in that position. Nevisians have been used and abused and discarded. The only time in my life I've ever been fired, I get fired from a man that I elevated. That my seat and the good people of number 9 was used to elevate. That's who fired me. Because you see, the perception in our country, and let's not run from it, the feeling by some seems to be that our job in Nevis is to find a way to do the donkey work. In Nevis they have a saying, they say you clean ground for monkey to run on. So you must go out there and clean the ground. You must go out there and do the work. You must go out there and do all the things you need to do. But when you're done clean the ground, monkey, go and run on it. And I want to say something tonight which may sound trite, but I want it to be understood that it is a profound statement as to who Mark Brantley is. Mark Brantley is Nivision, born, raised, grow, and will die as a Nivision. Mark Brantley is CCM, blue to the bone. Mark Brantley is not PAM. Mark Brantley is not Labour. Mark Brantley is not PLP. Mark Brantley is CCM, the Concerned Citizens Movement. My duty is to my constituents, to my party, to my island, and to my country. I don't have any other party that I belong to. And I want people to be very clear. I'm not a member of PAM. I'm not a member of PLP. I'm not a member of Labour. PAM must do what they need to do to make PAM relevant. PLP must do what PLP needs to do to make PLP relevant. And Labour must do what Labour needs to do to make Labour relevant. I am doing what I need to do to keep CCM relevant. And the NRP must do what they need to do to be relevant. That is the nature of politics. It seems to me that there are some who want to send a message that somehow Mark and CCM has a duty beyond the duty that I have just disclosed. And I have a concern about that, because as God is my witness this evening, I can say before God and man that the CCM has never had any assistance politically from any political party since I have been involved with CCM. I don't know about before my time. But when I joined this party in 2006, until now, we have not had a lending hand from anybody. Nobody has ever reached out and said, here's 5 cents to help you run your election. It has never happened. Certainly not that I'm aware of. Of course, Van Samry was the leader, the Honorable Van Samry of blessed memory, until 2017. So I don't know what might have happened. Sometimes people deal with the leader. But as far as I'm aware, we have never had a hand of assistance lent to CCM. CCM has always fought its battles as CCM, and I'm proud of that. I am proud of it. You know why I'm proud of it? Because nobody owns us. Nobody owns us. When we stand up, like us or don't like us, we stand strong as a true blue Nivision party. And I'm not afraid to say it, because I'm a proud Nivision. I'm proud of the legacy of this party. That's who I speak for, because that's what I know. That's who I lead. That's the team that is around me. Concerned Citizens Movement. I think people need to say it a few times. Concerned Citizens Movement. Concerned Citizens Movement. That's my party. Me no belong to no other party. One party. And there's no whiffle waffling. There's no jumping around. One party. United, together, and working in the best interest of the people of Nevis, and by extension the wider federation. That's who we are. And I'm just saying these things because perhaps some need to be reminded. My role is to ensure that my party is strong. The CCM remains strong, remains relevant, remains credible, and it continues to demonstrate to the people of Nevis that we have their best interests at heart. That's my job. Others must figure out what their job is. But that's my job. And I wanted to say these things tonight, not to be antagonistic, but I'm tired of being attacked by some who seem either they don't know or they pretend they don't know. Because when I'm hearing things that I betrayed people. I betrayed people. We went into an election in 2022. What was CCM's job? Win seats. What was PAM's job? Win seats. What was every political party's job in that election? Win seats. Only when you win seats, you can come to the table and say, well, this is what I bring. This is what I bring. That's your job. I don't know how all of a sudden I am somehow responsible for what happens anywhere else except what happens within the CCM. That's my responsibility. And the people of Nevis have seen clearly. NRP won 2 seats in the last election. Within a matter of weeks, they were at war. And in the famous words of Janelle Nisbet, what was a duet became a solo. At war. Somebody said to me that they did not vote in the last local election in Nevis. But when they saw what happened with the NRP, they said they cannot make the mistake not to vote again, because they shudder to think what would have happened had the NRP won the government and then the fighting start. That Nevis would have mashed up overnight. No leadership, no plans, no programs, no policies. Just fighting against each other. That is not CCM. CCM is cohesive. CCM is cohesive. And those who came to CCM and tried to create problems in CCM, we said to them, no, that is not the CCM way. That is not the CCM way. So go elsewhere and create your problems. And guess what? A lot of them have found comfort in NRP because them just are like problem people. Chaos. Confusion. So we say go. That's okay. We in the CCM will stay on the right path. We will stay on the right path and we will do the right thing. But I'm not going to sit down and allow people to cuss me and say all manner of things about me when it appears to me that they either don't have the facts or they're not prepared to consider the facts. And the suggestion that I somehow betrayed Sean, betrayed Pam, it irks me. It irks me because I don't see how you could offer prime ministership to a man and then say you betray him. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because it was offered on a platter. Here it is. And you know the irony, and I'm going to say this again. I've said it before. The irony was that after Sean and Pam turned down the prime ministership and decided they would stick with Timothy, it is that very act that Timothy then turned around and abused Sean and called him Mumu. Y'all remember that? I hope y'all remember, you know. Because they're somewhat trying to rewrite history. Because Sean stuck with Timothy, Timothy turned around and called Sean Mumu. And for those out there who may not understand our local dialect, Mumu is a special kind of stupid. Foolish, stupid. That is the word that he used to describe Sean. Because he knew that Sean could have been the prime minister of the country. And Sean said no. And deferred to him. And that's the thanks that Sean got. He turned around and cussed Sean like a dog. Call him these names. And yes, I know my language tonight might not be the most elegant, but I needed to say these things. Because I am tired of people having my name up and down like I have done something to somebody. The only thing that I've done in politics is fight hard for Nevis, fight hard with CCM, and win. That's what I have done. And I haven't won by trickery or by some subterfuge. I've won by appealing to the people of Nevis. And they are the ones who I'm answer to. They are the ones. I answer to God. I answer to my wife. I answer to the people of Nevis. My mother and father are no longer with us, so I can't answer to them. Those are who I answer to. And I just want to make that pellucid this evening. That when some of you talking, don't pass your place with me. Because I'm not begging friend, I'm not begging support, I'm not begging succor. When I want support, I find myself in the loving arms of the people of St. John's and St. Paul's. I find myself in the loving arms of the people of Nevis. That's who sent me to Bastille. Nobody in St. Paul's ever voted for me. Nobody in Sandy Point SP ever voted for me. Nobody in Keon ever voted for me. Nobody up St. Peter's ever voted for me. And if Douglas could stand up in the parliament and say, the Republic of St. Paul's, that's who you represent, will it look like people vex when I say I represent Nevis? Well, I'm here to tell you, don't be vexed. That is the reality. And one thing about me, I have an English tongue in my head and I can speak for myself. I put up with a lot of things. I hear a lot of things and I don't respond. But I'm saying don't come for me unless you have the facts. And don't ever try to sully my reputation and my integrity, because that's the only thing ultimately that I have. Material possessions come and go. Your integrity is what you have. And I've always conducted myself in this politics armed with my integrity. People may disagree with me. People may even dislike me. But I am always armed with my integrity. This is the reason I could come here week after week and talk to the people of Nevis and St. Kitts. A reason that I'm not hiding from people. Because whatever people have to say about me, and yes, I've made my mistakes, I'm only human. But I am armed always with my integrity. That is why in all my life in politics, you never hear no scandal about Mark Brantley. No corruption. People say all politicians thief. Well, not me. And the members of my cabinet understand. That's not something that I stand for. And I feel proud that with all that is being said, all the criticisms that are leveled, you never hear that criticism in Nevis. That speaks volumes for who we are and what we do. And so I end this overlong soliloquy by reminding Tutmun Saman Bagay out there. You see me? When you see me, you see Nevis, you see CCM. That's who I am. That's who my colleagues are. We are a proud Nevisian party. That's who we are. And with that, I have said enough. I will open the lines and take some calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers if you want to be a part of the show. If you don't want to be a part of the show, that's okay. We can just continue to talk until the band strikes up. And my assistant here, well, if I could call her my assistant, my partner here tells me it's time to go. As I said, my comments tonight are not intended to create offense. They're intended to set the record straight. And I'm hopeful that moving forward, we will have a more balanced discussion about the politics in our country, now that people have the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Let's go back to the phones and take the first call. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Honorable.
Good night, my brother.
Mr. Brantley, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Man, I just love how we talking, man. You just tell them how it is, man. Tell them how it is. That's how we say. Some people don't like when you talk the truth, but you're talking the truth and the fact. Tell them don't dirty you, man. I love what you're saying tonight. And listening. And you got to let people, you know, the thing about life, people don't like when you go back and bring back the reminder for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people don't like. And you tell them just like how it is. And that's what I love about you. You know, somebody want just, you know, just can we come, being come, and don't know nothing about you. And I just love what you say. You never done, you're never done.
But it looked like, Carla, some people get upset that you say you're in a vision. You know, I don't understand the mindset of some in our country. You know, one of the biggest things that people say about me, especially over in St. Kitts, Mark want to be Prime Minister. No, I have never said to anybody that I want to be Prime Minister. In fact, I have said publicly and privately, my focus is the island of Nevis. But let me just ask the question and put it out into the atmosphere. So what if Mark wanted to be Prime Minister? Kennedy Simmons wanted to be Prime Minister. Denzel Douglas wanted to be Prime Minister. Timothy Harris wanted to be Prime Minister. So, it seems to me that when they say Mark, forget about the name Mark. What some seem really to be saying is that a Nivision wants to be Prime Minister. Because they don't have any problems when it's somebody from St. Kitts who aspires to the office of Prime Minister.
Man, you saying the same thing what I'd be saying
but that's the fact. And that is the thing that I wonder sometimes where we going as a country. Because I have no such aspirations. I say so publicly because it's the truth. But it's almost as if it's a sin for somebody from Nevis to have that aspiration. When the people of Nevis are equal in this country, they're just as bright, just as capable as anybody on St. Kitts. So what is the problem if you find a capable leader from Nevis who can lead the country? The attitude in some quarters is that Nevisians must stay back. Our role is to make somebody else Prime Minister. And that's why I went through the history tonight. Our role is to support somebody. And that is the attitude that unfortunately exists in some quarters, not everybody. Let me be clear. But in some quarters, that is the attitude. And people are forward enough to tell you, you're not doing enough to make my person Prime Minister. You need to work harder. You need to do more. You need to fight harder. That is the attitude. Not that they need to do more. Not that they need to work harder to achieve what they want to achieve. But those from Nevis must do it for them.
Well, Honorable, just like for you on a topic, I just be on a topic down here with the young cousin who was born in the DVI. And the saying that they cannot lead the country because the parents is not from here, right? And then, but you still want them to be a part of your team, to build you, to make you a leader of the country. But you born there, you should not be the leader.
How that make sense?
I don't know if that makes sense. You born here, but they don't want you to be a leader at this year because your parents is not from here. But they still want you to be a part of the political team to make you win in politics. So anything else, you can't lead where you're born. So just like you talking about Nevis now, the Kittitian them, you want to Nevision rule them. That's the message. But I tell somebody some time ago, I never hear you say you want to be a leader. I think it. Never. You're always talking about Nevis. So I don't know where they're coming from. People just like confusion, but I just like how you just stand up towards them. Just like me, I do the same way. I had to be here talking about the young person were born, whether they're born, you need to go and they say, we have that issue right there, hey, in the business, where they can't own a passport with them born. But still when election time comes, they're the same children, the same people who they want to come and vote for them. And sometimes I'm going to tell you the same, because I have a lot of listeners who listen to this station on Wednesday. I don't care to get back. But it have some of us who come here just like me the same way. Before they stand up for the right, some of them, behave like they forget where they come from. Who vex. But that's how I speak. You understand? Just like how you speak, I speak the same way. I stand up for the youngsters that were born who are going to make this country where it is today. Whether they is Filipino or whatever, they born here. They represent the BVI. But you telling me, children, them, you could born here, but they can't lead, they can't be premier of the country. But their children could born in the U.S. and be premier. But you who definitely born here in the BVI, but expat parents and have one, they cannot lead this country. You understand? And that's what boils me, and you have some people just don't like me stand up and talk on these kind of things. And this is the thing that our children need to stand up and fight and say enough is enough. So who listening to me down here, too bad. That's how I speak. So you go on and you say what you got to say, because I like what you say. You got to tell the truth to feel it to vex.
All right, my brother.
All right.
Thank you very much for your call. Always appreciated. Let's stick with the phones and take some more calls. I think we have somebody calling. Let's go back. Good evening. You're on the mark. Do we have somebody on the line? No? Okay, I'm so sorry. Yes, we do. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Miss Sheriff, good night.
How are you, my dear?
Can I give God thanks
Yes.
as usual?
Uh-huh.
Proverbs 29, verse 22 and 23. An angry man stir up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgressions. A man pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. Have a good evening. May God continue to bless all of us, and you stay on the right track.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. I certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Thank you for your calls, as always. We're taking your calls. 869-469. Let's go straight back to the phones. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Mark, good evening.
Good evening.
Mark, I tip my hat to you. I tip my hat to you. Well, you well speak. You speak your mind. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. All right, we're sticking with your calls at 869-469-1616 and 1700. Let's go straight back. The phones are lighting up. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Yeah.
Yes, good evening, you're on the air.
Public. Good evening.
Hello?
Good evening to the listening public. Good evening to you, Mr. Mark.
Yes, good evening, brother.
Nobody think you'll change the narrative tonight.
Oh, what's the narrative?
And come talk about prime ministership and all them kind of things. Let me talk about the hospital you got up there for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
You understand? Let me talk about the Mundo chat where you got down there unfinished. Let me talk about the sit-up report were unfinished. Let me talk about the roads in Cherry Garden we want fixing. Let me talk about the Port Road we want fixing. We're going to change the narrative tonight, Mark. Right. Let me hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Carl. I'm not sure what narrative you're talking about. If you want to talk about the hospital, you want to talk about the Mondo truck, you want to talk about Cherry Garden roads, you want to talk about the water taxi facility, well, you're free to talk about them. That's my answer to you. Go ahead, talk. Say as much as you want about them. But we're taking the calls on 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you want to be a part of the show this evening. We have about 35 minutes left, so we're taking calls. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello?
You hear me? Good night.
Yes, I'm hearing you, but could you lift your voice a bit?
Yes. You hear me properly?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
You hear me better?
Yes, much better.
Okay. Good night. You see, and good night to all the listeners. You see somebody like that mash your can, man.
Who?
But somebody like that mash your can. But guess what? I'm gonna need to ask you some question outside the preamble. I'm glad for the scripture tonight, though. So thank the lady for the scripture. Yeah. Listen, Premier Brantley. One lady last week, me ask you, well, what me actually ask you, why you not invite
Prime Minister Jew to come over and talk to the Navy, think since the office he never come and address the Navy population. So that's what she may ask last week. So why you never do that?
Why I've never invited Prime Minister Drew to come to Nevis to address the people of Nevis?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know that Prime Minister Drew needs to come to Nevis to address the people of Nevis. I'm not sure what you mean. Is it that the people of Nevis don't hear him when he addresses from St. Kitts?
They don't want it on the way there.
They don't want it that way?
No.
So you know what the people of Nevis want?
Okay. So let me give you an example then. You not think that Prime Minister is supposed to come over, and after you done that, Giant to come over and address the people of Nevis, even with the geothermal?
Why?
How would the geothermal start?
So if he addresses them from his office in Bastille, they can't hear him?
No, they don't want to know where they...
Oh, them no want, but how you know? You talk for people in Nevis now?
Yeah, they don't want to know where they...
Okay.
Me got family down there, you know.
You got family down there, me live here.
You're right.
And other than you calling on radio talk about where you should meet and where you should whatever, me never hear not one of my constituents have asked me that question yet.
On constituency, they've asked that. On your constituency?
Not one.
No.
So me I wonder who you hear things from.
Okay. Let me ask you another question.
Yes, go ahead, move on.
Yeah. The children, the struggling children. Let me use the struggling children because you got not all parents alike. You got some parents that have it and wealthy and can afford things. So we talk about the parents them now that can afford the students them that go down to St. Kitts to schooling. Why helping out for them from the government point of view?
Well, first of all, we have the Nevis Sixth Form. And so we said to our students who wish to pursue the associate degree and the A-levels that are offered, that those are offered at the Nevis Sixth Form. For those students who are seeking to pursue studies that are not offered at the Nevis Sixth Form and they choose to go to the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College, then the government does provide some support in terms of transportation for them to go back and forth. Those who choose to go to St. Kitts when the same program is offered in Nevis, then we tell them, well, that's your choice, so you're on your own. Because if you can get it in Nevis, we see no reason why you should choose to travel to St. Kitts to get it. But for those subject areas which are offered in St. Kitts but not offered in Nevis, we provide some support for travel.
Okay. That's reasonable.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me give somebody else one chance and then if nobody on the line, maybe come back.
Okay. Thanks a lot. It is 20 minutes to the hour of 10 o'clock. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616. And 869-469-1700. I have been taking the time to check my phone and look at the comments online, and it does appear that people are listening, people are paying attention, and that's good. Dialogue is important, but what's also important is truth. And we must start to speak more truth in the country and stop some of the innuendo and the attack, especially when it's unfounded. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Mark.
Yes, caller, you're on the air.
You say you got 3 seats. You say you got 3 seats in St. Kitts. And Pam only got 1. And why should you give up your 3 seats? Put Pam 1 seat to be the opposition leader. Well, you had 3 seats when you went St. Kitts, to join to make the government. Well, how come you give up your 3 seats to Harris 1 seat to make him the Prime Minister, Mark?
Caller,
Let me know where you go to now.
Caller, I don't think you were listening to the show tonight. And, you know, it's unfortunate. I know you, and I believe you have more sense than you're exhibiting on the air. Because I've had one-on-one conversation with you, and I believe that you have more sense than you're showing. So don't let nobody have you calling in and then people see you tomorrow and laugh at you. If you were listening to the show, you would have heard the full explanation of how things went. When PAM had 4 seats, PLP had 1 seat, and CCM had 2 seats. The CCM, under the leadership of the Honorable Vance Emery, now of blessed memory, PAM and PLP had signed an agreement. That was the Charleston Accord. That is the basis on which Timothy Harris became Prime Minister. I don't know how many more times I have to explain that to people. So call up, perhaps if you didn't tune in early and you're just coming at the rear end, listen to the show tomorrow. And then maybe next week, if you so desire, you can call in and have an informed discussion, because all of that was discussed already. Let's go back to the phones and take some calls. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good night, Honorable Brantley.
Good evening to you, my friend.
Let me turn up my volume. Yeah, you have said it all. And congratulations. You understand me? People don't want to hear the right, you know?
Well, that is the case sometimes.
They don't like to hear the right. And let all of them bang them out, because they're just empty barrels, okay? Let me read my scripture. Oh, praise the Lord, all ye nations. Praise him, all ye people, for his merciful kindness is great toward us, and the truth of the Lord endureth. And my glasses fall off. Endureth forever. Praise ye the Lord. Have a good night.
All right.
And you take care. God bless you, eh?
Thank you so much.
And keep holding on.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. We're taking some calls. I see some people online say they're trying to get in. The lines aren't being tied up. The numbers are there. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. In fact, right now, there's no call. The lines are free. Here we go. Let's see if we can take this caller. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley. How are you?
Good evening to you. I'm well, thank you.
This is David Joseph.
Mr. Joseph, how are you doing?
I am just calling because I get a few calls, and up to today I got one. People keep questioning me as to what's going on with the Bath Street, Mr. Brantley. And today, I went down there today about midday, and I noticed, because a taxi man called me today and says, how come they're still charging to go to the Bath stream when the water in the stream is not hot? And under the house, the water smell bad and look bad. And people are getting concerned about it. A number of people called me. Down to Mr. Weber called me the other night. Spoke to me the other night about it. Said the bath is not heating up. And me and you spoke about it before. And I don't know what to tell them. Some of them I tell them, call Mr. Brantley and ask him, because I don't know. So can you explain I know what's going on with it, but if you can explain to people so that people will understand whatever the situation is with the Bath stream for me, please.
All right, Mr. David, thank you for your call. I am not an expert, and so I can't tell people what is going on with the Bath stream. I visited the Bath stream with you. We met on site. That was, I think, about 3 weeks ago. You indicated to me what your concerns were and what your suggested solutions are. Those have been taken on board, and we will be looking through the ministry to do what we can to see if what you have said is the problem is really the problem. But beyond that, it would be, unwise of me to sit down here tonight to tell you or tell the public what is going on. I have heard the complaints, just as you have heard them, that the water is not as hot as it normally is. And you have said to me that you have suggested what the possible cause could be and what the possible remedy could be. But it is something that we now need to take on board and do some work to ensure that we get the Bath stream back to what it was. But beyond that, beyond an expert coming in who has, expertise in geology and that kind of thing, I can't speak to say to you and to the public definitively what the problem is that is causing the water in some instances to be less hot. In fact, one person said to me that one of the pools that used to be hot is no longer hot, is barely lukewarm, but they realize that some other pool is even hotter. That's what was said to me. So I'm getting different reports, but nevertheless, you and I have met, you have shared your concerns, and we're taking those concerns on board. Beyond that, I can't say much more. We just need to know, see whether or not the proposed solution is in fact the solution, or we need to bring in experts from outside to advise us on what is really happening at the Bath Stream.
Okay. But can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
In the interim that we don't have a hot bath of such, because this is one of the things that the taximan said to me. He says, how is it that we are still charging to go to the bath, knowing fully well that the bath is not up to the standard that it should be? That reached me, because I know the bath, and as you said, we spoke about it before.
Caller.
And I thought that seeing that we are having a situation that we can't decide on, shouldn't we have relaxed the payment of going in until we could get it back up to the standard that it should be?
But Carl, I don't agree with you, because the Bath Stream is important, but it's not the only reason people go there. People go there to enjoy the surroundings. We've invested significantly there. People go there to sit. I've been there and see people sitting there, writing poetry, doing painting, doing all kinds of things, taking photos. The charge is $5 for non-nationals. So our local people are not being charged whether the stream is hot or the stream is cold. Local people are not paying anything. So I don't see that there's any point really there. The people who are asked to pay are those who are visiting and who we asked to make a nominal contribution to help us to upkeep the surroundings. Staff still has to be paid. The place still has to be kept clean. The pools have to be cleaned. All of that still happens. Now, if it is that one of the pools, because the one pool that I'm hearing about is the one under the shed, is not as hot as it used to be, then, as I said, give us an opportunity to remedy the situation. But I don't subscribe to this view that because that is the case in one of the pools that we must just stop charging the non-nationals, the tourists who come and want to visit the stream. So I disagree with you respectfully on that.
Yeah, okay, well, it was just my opinion, just my thought, because that was one of the complaints I had. Okay, well.
But why are you complaining about it? Because you would not pay anyway. So why is it a complaint to you or anybody local?
No, but you know, people call me. And there isn't a day that someone ain't call me and tell me about it, or meet me in the street, or if I talk the other day, I call into Mr. Weber show on something else, and he asked me about it, and after that he called to me, talked to me again about it, and there's some people going on, talk to me about it, and all I tell them just like I tell you, my opinion, and I told them I'm waiting on you to see what the next move going to be.
Okay.
But people is thinking about, when the person suggest to me today that the person, he had a bus with some people in it, I don't know if it was full or what, and there was charged, and then when he goes, the water wasn't, in his opinion, the water wasn't up to the standard that it should be. I was going to take him back, so I went and checked myself. And I didn't actually go in. I'm not complaining about paying because I never had to pay. But I just thought that if we're having a problem, then if there's a situation, then why don't we make it easy so that we don't lose the interest. People wouldn't say, I ain't going to pay $5 to go in there to watch some flowers or something else.
All right. I hear you, caller. You and I will agree to disagree on this one. We will try to solve the problem. But on the issue of the nominal charge that is not being paid by Nivisions, I don't see the problem. And in any event, the pool that I'm told is having the difficulties, the one under the shed. Because I was there up to, I think maybe a week ago, I was there, and people were there enjoying the open pools, as usual. No problems.
Well, as I said, when you was there, I showed you my data, I showed you the information that I have in relation to the pools. And I was hoping by now that we would have been able to compare them with the data that is kept now, and then try to figure out what the problem is and see where we go from there. But
all right. Good.
Yeah,
The problem we're seized we're seized with it, Mr. David. We understand your interest. We too are keenly interested. You have, as I said, I actually came there, went there with you. So you should know that nobody's ignoring your concerns. These are concerns that have been shared by other members of the public, and it is now for the government to take whatever action it can take to remedy the situation. And if, as I said, the advice you have given doesn't solve the problem, then we'll have to get experts in to look at the matter. I'm prepared to do all that, but the government must be given an opportunity to do what it needs to do to try and remedy the problem. But I just want to make it clear that my understanding is that the pool that's currently having the difficulty is the pool that's under the shed. The other pools seem to be functioning as normal. That's the information that I have, but absolutely it needs to be looked at, and I'm not going to run away from that. All right?
Okay, Mr. Brantley, well, at least I hope everyone is listening so that, you know, they'll put the questions at rest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
We have 8 minutes left. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. I have someone online here saying they're trying to get in. The lines are now free. Let's see if this person is the one calling. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Jimmy Brantley.
Hello. Yes, you're on the mark.
Yes. What the people them really say, I think how fight they want with you and Prime Minister Joe, you know. What they must say is that you're the leader of the opposition, and remember when you need things and so forth and so, a Prime Minister Joe you forgot to. So what they must say, you should have given somebody else the leader of the opposition, because when, okay, since you're there, you ever go on a mission of public accounts?
The Public Accounts Committee has not been formed, no.
So why not formed?
Well, it has just not happened. It has not happened yet. It has never been never been formed. So it is a matter that needs to be attended to, and it is a matter that I intend to deal with, but it has not been formed. It has never been formed. In fact, I don't think we've ever had a functioning Public Accounts Committee in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis.
You're serious? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so me believe that are the problem. Me believe that are the problem, because then the Prime Minister them just get free riding. They can just do what they want.
Well, I don't think that that's accurate, because if you listen to the debates, you listen to the Parliament, I make the point, substantial changes have been made to legislation because of our input. We have stood up and we have said we don't agree with this, or we think that this could be made better, and changes have been made.
No, but the Public Accounts Committee usually go out. You want probably go out and the public seek information from whosoever and then come back and report.
No, caller. You are wrong in relation to what the Public Accounts Committee does. The Public Accounts Committee is a committee that is established through the Constitution to look at government expenditure and to seek to ensure that the government expenditure is being done in accordance with the budget and in accordance with whatever mandate there is in relation to that expenditure. The Public Accounts Committee don't go out to the public to ask the public nothing to then come back with. That is not the correct understanding of what the Public Accounts Committee is supposed to do.
Okay. So,
right.
Yes, I rule different to everyone. Okay then, no problem.
All right. Thank you very much. We have 5 minutes left. We're taking your calls. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. We have 5 minutes left, and we are taking your calls. This is On The Mark, and this show is rebroadcast tomorrow on Von Radio right here at 1 p.m. Let me try again. Good evening. You're On The Mark.
Hi. Good evening, Mr. Brantley. I hope you're having a good night.
Yes.
Thanks again for doing the show as usual. I wanted to know if you could please speak to the bathrooms at the Charlestown terminal. I've been there a few times, and the transaction, so they ask for $1 to use the bathroom, but it feels pretty unprofessional and casual, so I'm really curious when and why this was implemented and what department it falls under and how the funds are used.
Okay, thank you very much. NASPA is who deals with that. I confess I don't deal with that directly. That's done through the Nevis Seaports Authority. I know that they'd introduced that nominal charge just to for toiletries and to try and keep this space clean, to have somebody there collecting that dollar charge, to just a nominal charge to defray some of the cost involved. I must confess that I have not myself been in that area in recent weeks. I can ask a question of NASPA to find out what is happening there, but that is really under their purview. So it would not fall to any particular ministry. It falls to NASPA, which is a statutory entity. Let me go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
So let me ask you something. Ain't you responsible in forming the Public Accounts Committee?
Yes, the leader of the opposition. Yes.
So how come you ain't farm it? So you can't say nothing about the public accounts then? That is what you're saying. Let me hear what you're going to say to that.
All right, caller. Thank you very much for that. I have simply said that in my recollection, we've never had a Public Accounts Committee. It is something, however, that I think ought to be formed. It is something that I'm interested in getting going, but we've never had one in the history of the country. So if you want to attack me to say I have no interest, then I suppose you're attacking everyone else, that nobody has ever had an interest. But that is not the case, because we obviously debate expenditure each year in the Parliament. We have an opportunity to do so, and that has been the model that we have employed. Not to say that the Public Accounts Committee is not important, nor to say that it ought not to be formed, but we've never had one. I didn't think it's now in Nevis over the years, and we've been independent since 1983, so I believe this year makes, 42 years of independence. We've never had that committee in place. So if you want to attack me for that, well, just add it to the list. That you had a long list earlier, just add that one as well, and see how far that would take you or take matters. But again, these are matters for debate. This is a democracy. It is raucous, it is loud, it is lively, and it is important that we have these discussions. We have 2 minutes left. We can perhaps take a final call. The lines are now free. If somebody wants to call in, there was somebody online saying that they wanted to get in. I'm not sure if they're still minded, but we do have time to take that call and to say good evening if there's somebody who wants to be on the line. So sometimes people say they can't get in, but when the lines are free, they're not calling. So I don't know quite how to address that, except to encourage people to be patient and to use the opportunity. Sometimes when the show is on or another show is on and I'm trying to call, let's take this call. The call is there, so let me go and say good evening, you're on the mark. Hello? Okay, caller, have we missed that call? Have we missed that call? Yep. Okay, call, I'm so sorry. We were trying to get you in as our final call, but that hasn't quite worked out. And now my erstwhile partner here has put on the band. And one thing about her, when she put on the band, she gets her face very serious, so that means it's time to go. She has her nails beautifully done tonight. Those look like music festival nails. So, a lot of things happening. A lot of good things happening. I encourage everybody who are going to Music Fest, please. Those on the boats, be safe. Those on the roads, be safe. Have a wonderful time with all the artists. The biggest artists in the world are going to be at the Sinkers Music Festival. I congratulate again the organizers. Please, let us pray for good weather, safety for everyone, and I pray that everyone has a good time. This has been a good show tonight, a good lively show, and I hope that people will replay it, listen, and understand that when we come, we speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Thank you, good night, and God bless and keep you. I hope, with God's strength, to be back here with you next week, Wednesday, for another edition of On The Mark.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited.